Solo Leveling! It was one of the first manhwas that I started reading alongside the likes of Noblesse and Tower of God. It was one of my favorites and probably the manhwa that got me into casual reading manhwas in my off time. While it's not one of my favorites anymore, I still think that it's genuinely good entertainment, even after all this time. I'm not the only person who got introduced to manhwas with Solo Leveling either. I'm sure that a lot of people have similar stories. Back when it was a manhwa, it blew up in a way that nothing else in the medium had done so before. I would argue that without Solo Leveling, manhwas wouldn't be where they are now. Solo Leveling was what brought Korean comics into the spotlight, at least outside of Korea. I cannot think of anything else in that medium with as much reach and success as Solo Leveling. And now, with the anime coming out with 2 seasons so far, it's only growing bigger and bigger. Solo Leveling is something that not only blew up as a comic, but also as an anime. The real question is, why? Why was Solo Leveling so successful? Why is it still successful? It's not a unique story, it's not a thought-provoking, inspirational story either, not for most people. So why does it work? Well, that's what this video is about. There are multiple things that make Solo Leveling as iconic as it is, all culminating into one singular point. Let's start from the smaller points. A lot of people will attribute Solo Leveling's success to its art, and now animation. Solo Leveling is a gorgeous comic, and it looked especially good when it first came out. Back then, manhwa art wasn't nearly as polished or high quality as it is today. Nowadays, manhwa studios have been popping off, so the quality has been growing massively. Solo Leveling had the quality you would expect now, back then. And the anime, at least so far, has also been handsome as all hell, with some of the most breathtaking choreography in anime. Just watch Jin-woo vs. Icarus, I'm sure it's on YouTube. Now, while I do think that the looks of Solo Leveling has always been a good draw, I don't think that is the reason why it has gotten so popular. Pretty art and fluid animations can only take you so far. Look at the God of High School anime. No one talks about it, even though it was also a manhwa that got an incredible adaptation into an anime. It was another fight-filled anime, and yet it didn't even get a quarter of the same success that Solo Leveling has gotten. As they say, good looks will make people glance at you, but you need more than that to make people stick around. The same point can be made with fight scenes. Just having a nicely animated fight won't make people stick around. You need more than that. So, while the fights and art of Solo Leveling are great, those things only introduce people to the series. So now the question is, what makes people stick around? For one, while Solo Leveling is cliché and predictable, it's still refreshing for most people. A guy is weak, guy becomes powerful, guy is cool now, everyone likes guy now. Never before seen plot points. Even so, it's still fresh. Why? The setting and world of it, most importantly, the vibe isn't that common in anime. Now, yes, a lot of manhwas have the same basic premise. Some could argue that a lot are indistinguishable from Solo Leveling. But that's only true without proper context. As I've already said, Solo Leveling was a manhwa that got a lot of people into manhwas. Before Solo Leveling, people didn't know what gates, towers, S-ranks, SSS ranks, the regressions, solos, such things were. While these kinds of stories existed before Solo Leveling was the one that popularized them. Same goes for the Solo Leveling anime. Anime fans don't know about the genius, artifact, player reincarnation, max level stories that plague the manhwa scene. Instead, they just watch isekai. So, for anime fans like that, something like Solo Leveling is surprisingly refreshing. A modern world story about gates that bring in monsters to the overworld, kept in check by different governments around the world. And the protagonist isn't a high schooler? Inconceivable for the average anime fan. Anime rarely focuses on real-world geopolitics, and when it does, it's usually glossed over. So while the politics and the overall world of Solo Leveling are pretty basic, it's not something that the casual anime or manga fan is used to, which leads to the next point. Sex sells. That is something that everyone can agree on. We humans are horny creatures, monkeys when our lower halves demand attention. Even so, there is one thing that sells more than sex. Something that will always be loved and celebrated, unlike sex. The rule of cool. Yes, breasts are great. I love breasts. Most people do. But you know what people like even more? A fully armored knight with a cape, swinging a sword in the most flashy, badass ways possible. A lone warrior fighting against all odds to survive an army of bloodthirsty, unrelenting statues. Swords are cooler than breasts. The fantasy of grimdark magic is more alluring than any curves could ever be. And you know what Solo Leveling has? A lot of cool moments and designs. That is the difference between Solo Leveling and a lot of other power fantasies, ones that anime fans watch at least. Pick up the average isekai and you'll notice something is missing. Testosterone. Your protagonist has to look absolutely generic, 7 out of 10 max. There always has to be womanly body parts bouncing on screen. Otherwise, are you really working on plot and comedy? A character who looks vaguely cool has to be fodder for the riskless protagonist who stutters within 5 meters of a woman. The church? Evil. The story? Utter trash. The only thing you can do is make the protagonist humiliate comically incompetent popular guys. Only guys and ugly girls. If the girl is hot, she can be redeemed. On screen. Again, total lack of testosterone. Now, you could watch that. Or you could watch Solo Leveling. Real power fantasy is fighting against an unbeatable horde of knights, only surviving via the skin of your teeth. It's having a shadow army that is just the fallen souls of the enemies you have bested and slayed. And that shadow army is filled with cool designs that makes your inner voice scream out in triumph. Solo Leveling is a good power fantasy because it gives people what they want. It's mostly a story for a male audience and it knows it. It's not complicated. It's not trying to hide what it is. It's shameless. Which leads us to the next point. Jin-woo himself, the protagonist. Jin-woo isn't anything out of the ordinary as a protagonist. He starts out his journey as the weakest, and throughout the series he becomes the strongest. Zero to hero, boy to man, omega to sigma. This kind of story has worked for thousands of years and will continue to work for thousands more. His one defining trait from the start is that he is tenacious. He isn't one to give up, and when it comes to fight or flight, he always chooses fight. Even so, he isn't truly hot-headed. He is risk-averse. He might get caught off guard every now and then, but for the most part, he is rational and can be quite smart. Lastly, he is someone who isn't averse to sacrificing himself for others. He did it for his family, and he did it in the statue dungeon. It's because of those qualities of his that he gets stuck in the statue gate. All these traits we get from the first 2 episodes of the anime and the first few chapters of the manhwa. From there, he gets the ability to level up in a world where no one else can. That is what makes him special in the world of Solo Leveling. For a decent while, he isn't strong enough to reveal his power to anyone. Yes, double awakenings exist, but that excuse can only take him so far. No one can get stronger, so if someone found out about Jin-woo, who knows what would happen? Again, he isn't one to take risks, which is why he hides his growth for like half the story. And that is where his development comes from. Due to his ability to solo level, an invisible barrier forms between him and the rest of the world. He starts living in a world of his own, bound by a system that levels him up. He is alien, he isn't like anyone else. As the series goes on, he becomes more and more detached, less relatable to the world around him, less human. Of course, it is what it is, so he mostly keeps all of that to himself. But this continuous loss of humanity does scare him. It's why the few moments where we do get to see Jin-woo get expressive later in the series, those scenes become more memorable. My point is that Jin-woo is a likable protagonist, and the reason why this becomes so important is because solo leveling is one man's playthrough of a game that you can't play. Solo leveling is a playthrough, like one of those that used to be so popular on YouTube. It's why the story is centered strictly around Jin-woo, giving other characters very little time to shine. It's because the only important character is Jin-woo. Yes, there are other characters that are memorable, but the story only has one main character, which is Jin-woo. Everyone else is an NPC. NPCs with lives of their own, but lives not really important to the protagonist. So, if Jin-woo was an obnoxious or unlikable character, solo leveling would not be anywhere near as popular as it is. He's hot, he's ripped, tall, ripped out guy. Yes, sometimes his chin becomes a blade, but for the most part, he is a man of style. Like the handsome version of those isekai protagonists. Jin-woo also has aura, but I will talk about aura later. My overall point is that Jin-woo is someone that the audience not only wants to be, but also wants to follow. We want to follow the journey of this K-pop star through his playthrough, and solo leveling gives us exactly that, and not much else. I think you can criticize the series for the lack of attention it gives to its supporting cast. It's totally fair to not like it because of that. If you're someone who mostly cares about characters and their interactions, solo leveling might not be for you. Personally though, I think that solo leveling's obsession with only Jin-woo actually works out in the series' favor. Solo leveling is slop. It is fast food. Now I will tell you why that's actually not a bad thing. Take a series like Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga is one of my favorite anime ever. It's one of those series that everyone can agree is incredible. It's deep, thought-provoking, inspirational. Everything that something like solo leveling isn't. But the thing with Vinland Saga is that it is not something you can just watch. An anime like Monster takes brainpower. A show like Breaking Bad demands your full attention. You can't watch these shows back to back. They are great, some of the best out there, but they're also exhausting. For most people, these shows just aren't comfortable, even if they are great. Which leads us to slop shows. Series that are just there to be watched. Series with very surface level depth. Series that don't demand your full attention. Every season we get a bunch of amnesia-inducing isekai anime built on a budget of 3 Sumerian coins and 5 lunch breaks. And they always get watched. Not by a lot of people, but by enough. Why? Because those kinds of anime are easy to watch. You just put them on, watch the titties bounce on screen for 20 minutes, and then tune in next week, having forgotten what happened the week prior already. This is also the same reason why scroll comics have been blowing up. With an anime or manga, it can be a little inconvenient to watch/read them whenever you want. Scroll comics, on the other hand, are incredibly convenient. With a manga, you have to scroll down to read the full panel, but then you have to zoom out, zoom back in to read to the left before going diagonally to the right again. Point is, it's a pain. With scroll comics, you just scroll down. Scroll comics, being manhwas and webtoons, maximized slop. Now, not all scroll comics are slop. You can't read something like Barbarian Quest with the same mindset as something like Soul Leveling. Soul Leveling's biggest strength is that it knows what it is. It's efficient slop. It's comfortable. It has hype. It has aura. It has great fights. It is a 7 wings menu pop chicken burger of Popeyes in entertainment form. Except it's not as bad for you. It's convenient and entertaining. Soul Leveling never tries to go past slop. It makes sure to never get too complicated. It gives you a lot to look forward to, a lot of mysteries. Like, what was the statue gate that gave Jin-woo his powers, or wow, wonder what's in the depths of the demon gate, or wonder when Dunk Suck is going to be relevant. All these are exciting to look forward to, but they aren't deep. Just engaging enough to have your attention, but not enough to make you ponder. In the start, I talked about how the reason why Soul Leveling is so successful is because of multiple points making up one larger point. And that larger point is simply entertainment. The best way to explain it is that an anime like Vinland Saga takes energy, but an anime like Solo Leveling gives energy. Soul Leveling is built solely on aura. Everything that happens to make a future thing hype. Every character exists solely to make Sung Jin-woo look like a god. Every plot point is there to make you jump out of your seat and do 5 different Fortnite dances while swinging a broken mob like his sword. Of course, the OST complements that. There are 2 ways that Jin-woo farms aura in Soul Leveling. Half the time, he does it in front of spectators. He surprises everyone by just how awesome he is, and how long his shaft is. Sometimes he lets people get beat up just to make everyone feel hopeless before swooping in and dominating the person that was styling on the spectators. Jin-woo has a severe aura farming addiction, but he also makes sure that good people don't die even if they get beaten and bruised to the gates of the afterlife, so it balances out. Think of stuff like the Spider Gates and Jeju Island, the bugs of this. The other half of the time, Jin-woo is grinding in complete isolation. As everyone is living their life, going through the motions, Jin-woo is grinding and conquering the challenges that the system throws at him without the knowledge of anyone. He is going on his own. Solo, almost comfy a lot of the times, dangerous adventures that only he and, later on, his summons are privy to. Think of the Egress Dungeon and the Demon Tower. Once one approach gets boring, the series goes the other way. Once the hype of that one goes out, Jin-woo starts aura farming the other way again. So, this way, Jin-woo is in a consistent grind that is always entertaining. That is the essence of Solo Leveling. It doesn't care about depth, it doesn't care about ideals, just entertainment. Araki, the mangaka of JoJo, once said that as long as you have good characters, nothing else matters. Plot, who cares? Lore, an afterthought. All that matters is having characters that people will get interested in. And that is pretty evident in his work. No one cares about the setting of JoJo. Bunch of dudes going from Japan to Egypt to take down an immortal vampire is fun, but no one remembers JoJo Part 3 as that kind of story. Everyone just remembers the characters themselves. Jotaro, Dio, Joseph, and every other character. The same thing is happening with Soul Leveling, but instead of characters, it's fights and aura. As long as you have entertaining fights and hype aura moments that all link to each other, nothing else matters. Sure, you get tidbits of other things, but for the most part, Soul Leveling gives you what you want, what you expect it to. Which is where I think the divide is coming from. A story doesn't have to be a masterpiece to be popular. Not everything has to be an Animal Farm. But when something gets popular, people expect it to be some kind of generational masterpiece. The second Bible. But in reality, a lot of shows that get popular aren't popular due to the depths. Meanwhile, some things that aren't popular at all have lots of depth and care put into them, but even so, just don't get popular. Solo Leveling is not Arknight's Battle, it's not LB6 from Fate Go. Most of all, it doesn't try to be anything like that. The reason why this divide exists between the people that like Solo Leveling and those who don't is because when someone who doesn't like it criticizes its side characters or its lack of originality, people who like it don't care because that's not why they enjoy Solo Leveling. To them, it doesn't matter that side characters get no screen time because that's not what they are watching. If Solo Leveling put more care into its side characters or had some kind of grand message, it wouldn't be anywhere near as popular, because at the end of the day, Solo Leveling is slop. Min-maxed, delicious slop. This video was just a short detour from what I usually do, but it was fun. I like making videos that I like making. Also, I completely forgot that only half of anime fans are isekai watchers and the other half are aura watchers. Still doesn't change my points. Not much else to say. Like, subscribe, comment, dislike, give me engagement. Been gooning to Girls Frontline 2 lately.